starting our today's journey on, actually McCollum Pike, 838 McCollum Pike, where June and I now live. And headed up here Centennial Boulevard, as you can see. And then shortly we're going to be passing the roses and the flag there with the horses, called Pioneer Village, a Pioneer Place, and which is a great thing. We enjoy quite often. Frisch's here, and McDonald's and Burger King, and the Roses, all types of restaurants here. But the great display here of Pioneer Corner, it's called. Fantastic. And of course, coming right after Pioneer Corner is the Pioneer School. And travels with John Stephenson here. Graduated in 1961 here from Simon Kenton School. And a great place and a wonderful journey to begin life at Kenton Elementary and then graduate from Simon Kenton. This is our 60th year anniversary from 1961, and we'll be having hopefully our 60th year celebration at either at the senior center or some other place that we can locate, but that's the one we're looking at right now, and the senior center, either on September the what was it, the 11th, or October the 2nd. Both of them Saturdays, and we got to call a few people and see which they would prefer, and then set our organization up to work on the 60th year celebration of the class of 1961 Simon Kenton High School. A great high school with great teachers, and they've kept that tradition up, and they're highly ranked right now in Kentucky schools, and they do a fabulous job, and they have some fabulous athletic teams now in all the different sports. Of course, passing here the sort of famous Nyes, whichever you want to call it, pharmacy there, and June and I do some of our pharmacy work there, and some at Kroger's. It's a good pharmacy. And of course, the police department there, Kenton County Police Department, and right here on the left is where the new La Rosa's type operation is going to go in, right here on the corner. And today, instead of turning right as we do most of the time, we're going to head on out 17 until we come to Moffett Road, where I used to walk and hitchhike, whichever was possible, from Simon Kenton to pass the what used to be called the Chicken Roost. Today is called Peacock's Bar and Grill. By the way, they've got a good steak supper in there on special too. And but out to Moffett Road here, which it used to be on the corner where Johnny's Freeman's IGA store was located. Now I think his son still does some mechanical work there, and maybe is selling a few used cars. Off to the left here, we used to have the McKinley's restaurant, and which is no longer there, but us kids used to like to stop in there and get an order of French fries with lots of ketchup, as I can remember. And so we love this little trip here today down to Kenton Baptist Church, where I grew up in the church there with my little sister Judy and my sister Mary Ruth, and probably part of the time with Gerald and Barbara, our brother and sister. And but Gerald and Barbara were more familiar with Latonia Baptist Church, where Mom and Dad first lived over on Wolf Road. Had a house built over there by Boss Spears, right at the top of the hill before you went out over the first little hill there. where the Culbersons lived, and the Halberstats, and the Martins, and some wonderful people, and the Williamses. I had some wonderful friends there. But today we're going down by where Mom and Dad moved out here when I was about 7 years old, 7 or 8, I suppose, and Judy was about 4 years younger. They moved out here to Martin and Moffett Roads, the corner of those two roads where later in life Miss June and I came at Stephenson. Now there's a little place I was telling you about, which was Freedman's IGA. Of course, it was a much bigger building at that time. But here we are at Moffett Road and 17, known as Atwood, the famous Atwood, where R.C. Durr grew up and was born, and Bill Durr. The Durrs becoming very famous business people in the northern Kentucky area. The Stevens, Judy Stevens, graduated, rode the bus with me there, her and Jean Stevens, and they were both excellent students. In fact, Judy Stevens was a valedictorian of our high school class in 1961, went on to be a famous school teacher at Dixie Heights High School, an excellent one. And Jean is a school teacher also, and an excellent one. And I believe she's still in the Kenton County system. I might be wrong about that, but I know they both were superb teachers. And but that's sort of the story of this area. A lot of these things you're seeing now, we're going back. Of course, there's the Elstons lived there, and the Steeleys lived down here, this little house on the left. And I want to see 25 acres there for sale. Miss Steeley was a great friend of my mom's, Garnet Bingham Stephenson. My mom was a very wonderful Christian lady. Her and Miss Roden shared the piano duties with the church and taught Sunday school in the little one-room Baptist church, the old Kenton Baptist church, which I'll go by and show you later. And Judy Fulmer lived back there on the left. She was always a biology person, collecting animals, snakes, and everything. And but she was very knowledgeable and a good student. But this little road here, Mr. John Gray drove the school bus, Mr. Van Horn, Mr. Clinkenbeard. We all had some great bus drivers, and then later in life, of course, Dorothy Stephenson. Whoops, what? Excuse me there, folks. Sorry about that. I dropped my phone. Knocked it off the holder here. But it's still running. But Dorothy Stephenson, who passed away, her and my brother Gerald passed away this December within 3 weeks of each other, this past December. And unfortunately, I couldn't go to my brother's funeral because I had the virus at that time and was in the hospital. Our great friend and leader out here in this area was Bill Jackson, who right up here, Frank Jackson, had the farm on the right and the left, was a great dairy farmer. His old dairy barn still sits back in there. And he was with the Future Farmers of America and with the great agriculture organizations, soil conservationists and otherwise, did a great job. And a fine Christian man, as well as his wife was a fine Christian lady at the Oak Island Baptist Church. Now right here is where we're going to take a little U-turn split off here. Right there is where I built the house. I'll show it to you in a little bit. That's where Dad's 12 acres started. I hung on to 2 acres. And June and I built that house you're seeing right in there and planted all these trees here on this ridge, which is one of the dreams that my mother, Garnet Bingham, had. And but right down there is where our property started. And now they built another house here now and got a barn there. Good folks. And of course, Bonnie Friedman over here lives on this side, where Mr. Fightmaster used to live, play his banjo and his guitar. And here we have where Mom and Dad had their little 4-room frame house. And eventually they tore that down and put in this facility here, which is very beautiful and very nice. And next door to us lived the Crosses, Janet, Butch, and Patsy Cross, and Mrs. Cross, and Johnny Cross. Down the road to Martins, the Dunns and the Kerrs lived up there, Carol Kerr and Tom Kerr and the Kerrs, and the Jimmy Noakses and the Eddie Smallwoods on down the street there. And still friends of mine, best of friends, Jimmy Noakes and Eddie Smallwood. When Eddie gets back in town from Florida, him and Jimmy and I go out, have dinner together. We grew up on this little road patch here called Martin Road. And then right down on the left on Moffett Road, my brother lived, Gerald lived. I'll show you as we drive by that, headed down to Kenton Station and to the church for the reunion today, that they're having a little reunion picnic. As you can see, all these trees that we planted have grown up quite a bit. They got it fenced in back there. I think they got a little pool back there now, people that live there. But June and I planted all these trees and bushes. As you can see, it's beautiful, I'd have to say. And they got their flags up. It was a job mowing all this, I'll tell you that. We've been gone for about 7 years now. And unfortunate hospital bills and medical bills and the economy put us in bad straits. So we had to give up our home. It's beautiful though, I'd have to say. And really proud of it, frankly. Give you a good little shot of it there. A look at it. Nice 2-car garage, big nice wide driveway. And here we had some great neighbors here on this side, and the Douglases lived over there, and Gerald lived right down here, Gerald and Dorothy, in that little trailer for many years. Some wonderful folks. And a beautiful setting across the street now. I guess some horse people there. Now Todd, my nephew, Gerald's son, lives right here on Rector Road. You go down there about 2 miles and you'll find where Todd lives down there. Todd, great fine young man, and his family. Beautiful subdivision back there with some $1 million homes. Moffett Road has built up quite a bit here, as you can tell, driving down. I worked on all these fields back through here, including back in here in the Nihoff farm. That was a big farm back in there, back in those days. 50 cents an hour, and worked my head off. But good people, good farm people, good country people. 4 years in agriculture at Simon Kenton High School with John Gray as the agriculture teacher, and then Bob Barnes is the 4 years I had agriculture. Bob Barnes was the teacher, which was a superb teacher. I mean, superb teacher. And later he worked over at later he was superintendent of education for the superintendent of schools here for Kenton County. And then later he worked at Northern Kentucky University in high capacity. Great man, great people. Mr. Hinsdale was our principal until our last year, and last year we had George Edmondson and his wife Lois. Wonderful people. Mr. Hinsdale was Reuben Hinsdale, and Mrs. Hinsdale. She happened to be my history teacher, the 8th grade, and did a great job. And I always enjoyed having her as a teacher. And Gaynard Caldwell from government, great teacher. Mr. Best, Gay Best, one of the best math teachers, algebra, plane geometry. You said it, you name it, he could do it. He was a great teacher. Mr. Martin, Mrs. Hightower, and only Riley, 7th grade world geography. There couldn't be a better teacher in the world. Right in here somewhere is where Mr. Gray lived, his territory here. And here's the Oak Island Church down here, you see, that we're coming to. Oak Island Church. And I'm going to pull off here and let this gentleman get by me here. Somebody getting by there. Don't want to hold them up. Oh, you talk about some beautiful hillsides here. You got some beautiful sights. Now down here somewhere along here where Janet Stanley lived. Of course, she lives over in someplace else now. Oh, out off of Stevens Road, I think it's called. Yeah, and a beautiful home over there. A lot of nice places down here. I'm looking forward to today. Just remember the times we rode our bicycles down these roads and over these hills. And then back in those days, we were skinny and strong, and we could pump up these hills like they were nothing. I can remember for sure. The Coveys lived out here somewhere too, along here on Moffett Road. Of course, it was Carl Covey, one of the deacons out of 4 of them, Mr. Carl Covey. Later, his son played music over at the church I go to now, Bethesda Community Church. And him and his wife came there. Well, we've been going, June and I've been going there about 3 years now. Wonderful little church on Mount Zion Road, right before you get into Boone County. But Carl Covey was a deacon, and John Griselle was a deacon, and Walter Roden was a deacon, and Vernon Likens were deacons, and they drove an old rickety church bus down to Louisville, Kentucky to hear Billy Graham's crusade. Took us kids down there on that old church bus, and Judy, my little sister, went with us, and Judy and I both gave ourselves to the Lord that night down there in 1956 in the Billy Graham crusade. And Brother Kerger was the pastor, and his wife Polly. I remember them clearly and distinctly. Wonderful Christian people. 1956, my mom and dad loved them, and the box back in here, family, and just wonderful people. This is where you saw a lot of farming done, and this is known as Moffett Hill, and believe me, it's a hill. And climbing it on your bicycle or even walking is not an easy task. I wouldn't want to try it today, what I weigh today. But they took us down there to the Billy Graham crusade. Billy Graham preached a sermon on, and I never will forget, it's the Holy Spirit's job to convict, it's God's job to judge, and it's my job to love. And I've tried to live up to that as best I could my entire life. And so did Miss Judy, who went on to be a school teacher, 1st grade. Judy Stephenson Felty. And she lives up in Milford now, I think it is, up Ohio there. And with her husband Don and Donnie and Melissa's out west in, I think, Washington someplace, and doing a wonderful job out there. She's a computer expert, software expert. But you see this hill? There were some nights we had to get out and put chains on the back wheels of the car to get up this hill. I can remember crawling underneath the car with my dad out in Stephenson and putting chains on out there in the snow, or we wouldn't have been able to get home. And I'll tell you, it was some times back in those days. Moffett Road here, same way on Martin Road, only Martin Road was even a little steeper in places. And but we loved this little church down here, and the people that were here as pastors, Reverend Foley and Reverend him. Well, of course, all of the ladies that taught Sunday school classes with my mom and my dad, Deacon, and those men that I mentioned, they were pillars of salt, good, well characters, and Christian men and women. Cared for children, cared for people. And this little church, I can remember when my mom passed away in 1965, they worked hard to try to get a little new church built. And my dad's in one of the pictures down here. Well, here's where the Applegates live, by the way. Tom Applegate graduated from high school with us. The old Kenton Station that we're coming to here now, this is Kenton Station Road, as a matter of fact. Right down there on the left, about another half mile, was the Kenton swimming pool, which we used to come to all the time. I don't think it's there anymore, but there is the Kenton Lakes over here across the street. I don't know if you can see any of the water still out there or not, but there were lakes over there. Might still be a semblance of them up the ways here. But this is known as Kenton Station here now. And I'll see if I see any water over there. No, I see where the lakes were, but I don't see any water in them anymore. They used to be quite good fishing lakes. Now they just look like a place for some crops to grow. Don't see any water at all. I guess some water hangs out in there, but don't see any there. Used to be called Kenton Lakes. Well, it's like a lot of things in life. Things have changed. The Rhymers, the people here, Kenton Station. And here you first I'm going to see me come upon the little old church right here. Kenton Full Gospel Church is called now, and back behind it, the outhouses that are still there in the back. Kenton Full Gospel Church. Well, I tell you what, many a day has gone by. I was in this little church, one room. The way they made the classes in there was they pulled the curtains on some wires to separate the different classes off. And we would have some really big Bible searching days in there. And wonderful people. Just wonderful people, wonderful memories. Right here on DeCourcy Pike and Kenton Station Road, the corner, I-77. Used to be a little grocery store across the street. On down across the railroad tracks was the Thornhill drag strip. I don't know if that's still there or not, but that's where it used to be. Now right down the road here is where they built the new Kenton Baptist Church, and we'll get to see that since we're coming to the little reunion picnic today. And I don't know if anybody will be coming much, but I certainly will be there. And looking forward to meeting some of the current people here at this little Kenton Baptist Church. and it's filming right now. And there's my old buddy from CPC, Community Program Center. And your name, sir, is?
Bob Stetter.
Bob Stetter, and Bob works helping their video here today, doesn't he?
Yes, yes.
And then when you're ready to stop, just